Welcome to this week's edition of Black Authors Matter TV, where we interview the latest movers and shakers in the African American literary community. You'll meet some old friends, discover new ones, and stay abreast of the latest book developments around the country and even the world. So sit back and relax for the next 2 hours with Black Authors Matter TV co-hosts Gwen Richardson and Dr. Rhonda Lawson.
Good evening. You reach Black Authors Matter TV and happy Black History Month. We're excited to be bringing the show to you once again, like we do on every Tuesday. I'm Gwen Richardson, your host for tonight, along with my co-host,
Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Good evening, everyone.
And I hope you all are having a great week so far. We have a great lineup for you tonight. When we enter Black History Month, what we try to do is have at least one show packed with some of the people who are veterans in the industry, some of whom we may not have heard from in a while. And we have that for you tonight. And we'll also have someone later in the month that that applies to. So you are going to have a great night with us. Now, we have 2 books to give away, which we will do after our first interview with Pat George Walker. And some of you may know, I remember Pat from way back, like in the early 2000s, because she was a comedian and she would do comedic skits. And I think she had a DVD or more, maybe more than one, but she also wrote books. So she was multi-talented. So she has some new releases coming out, even though we haven't heard from her in a while. And she's going to tell you all about an update on her activities and what she's been doing over the past few years. So as soon as her picture comes on, we will bring her on and welcome her to Black Authors Matter TV. Hi, Pat, how are you? Oh, unmute your mic for us.
We want to hear your beautiful voice.
Let me turn the sound up just a little bit.
Okay.
We're having internet issues here, but God is still on the throne.
Amen.
Okay. And so welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you for having me. Hey, Gwen.
And I see you wearing your t-shirt. That's great.
I wasn't sure, but I said, okay, it's Black History Month with Black Authors Matter. Why not?
Okay.
There you go.
Yeah, we usually have at least one guest wear their t-shirt on the show. So how have you been? First of all, how have you been? And just give us like an update about what you've been doing let's say the last decade. Because I know you from back in the early 2000s.
It's been almost 25 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Almost 25 years.
Time
Well, I know, right? Even whether you're having fun or not. But I lost my husband.
Yeah.
So right. So I had to kind of navigate, in new territory, being in a new position because he died in my arms, and that was kind of hard to get over or through when you're used to writing comedy.
Okay,
So,
yeah, I'm sure.
you know what I'm
How
saying?
long were you all married?
We were married 30, now I'm trying to remember, because we dated 16 years before we got married.
Wow.
Oh, boy.
So if we add all that together, it's like 30, 35 years, 36 years,
Well, that's an interesting milestone. And for those of you ladies out there that have been dating someone for years, Pat, she dated 16 years and they got married. So
yeah, it was one of the reasons why I wrote the book Choices, because most people that know me through my second husband, but I was married once before during the Vietnam era. So
okay.
so when I wrote the book, I had to put that in there because it's part of who I am.
Yes. Yes.
That was part of my journey.
Right.
So and during that time, if you allow me to explain it a little bit, during that time, when I was 19, I was looking for God, even though both my parents for preachers and pastors. And but I was looking for God on another level, if you can
Mm.
understand that. I knew him through my parents, knew him through my grandparents, but I needed to know him for myself.
Yes.
So when I joined this church, I did not know at the time that it was a cult.
Mm.
That's why we got to be careful. Got to be
Wow.
careful. And it was
Yeah.
in Harlem, New York, and I had only known uh, my ex-husband for 3 days before they told me that he was the man I had to marry.
That you
So
had
it
to
was
marry.
had to marry. God told them that I had to marry this man. So
Wow.
it was a situation where I was so meek and so humble and didn't realize that when we were going out on the Harlem streets wearing all white and little white crowns and, asking for money on the corners, whatever he told me to do, I did because that's what I thought God wanted me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, knew him for 3 days, was told that we were supposed to get married, that we had to get married. And he was on his way to Vietnam, stepped in the church in his uniform and all that other good stuff. So when he left for Vietnam about a couple of weeks later, I didn't know him and he didn't really know me. We knew each other in the carnal sense, but not in the spiritual nor common sense. So by the time he came back from Vietnam, I had our first child. I think she was like about 2 months old or something like that. So
Wow.
during the time that he was in Vietnam, he had gotten shot down in a rice paddy. I mean, he went through a lot of stuff, but unfortunately, because we really didn't know one another, I didn't know how to respond to his situation when he came back, and he didn't know how to respond to mine. But the church said that we had to stay married
Mm.
or I would go to hell.
Wow. What
Never mind
was it, a
living
denominational
in hell.
church?
I was going to ask the same thing. What type of church was this?
Yeah, what type of, was
Pentecostal.
it a
It
church?
was
Was it a
Pentecostal.
denomination? It was Pentecostal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard some, not your story exactly, but I grew up with some Pentecostal people and then saw them later in life, and it's like I went to high school with some. Then later in life, they explained to me what they were dealing with, not being, why they couldn't go to the prom, or
Right.
they couldn't go to movies, or they couldn't, wear normal clothes. But I
We
didn't
wore
really,
uniforms. We wore
yeah,
uniforms.
right.
White linen gowns as to be angelic and sanctified,
Mhm.
and little crochet crowns on our heads because, crown of glory, all of that. And I really, when I say
Important.
I was 19 and naive, I was 19 and really naive
Yeah, I
because
think, well, most of
before
us
that,
are at 19, most of us are.
Mhm.
But
well, see, both my parents were, were preachers and pastors, so I never really had an opportunity to see the other side of life. So I was kind of ripe for the picking.
yeah, I feel you. I'm a PK, Pat. I know
Well,
I'm
exactly
a
what
double
you're
PK.
yeah,
so
I know
well,
exactly
what
what
was it? What was your process? Because it seems that you're no longer with this church or with this denomination anymore. So what was that process of moving away from that?
Actually, I'm still Pentecostal. It
Okay,
was that particular church
gotcha.
okay.
that was under a particular foundation or an
Okay.
organization, and they
Mhm.
wore the title or the mantle of Pentecostal. But as I've grown, it's unlike any other Pentecostal church that I'm aware of.
Okay, yeah.
And
Anything
I
can be
think what,
manipulated.
Right, that's
yeah, yeah,
Manipulate. Mhm.
yeah.
People.
And like when he came back from Vietnam, it was a situation where there was no counseling. There was no counseling, when the soldiers returned. So whatever condition they returned in, you were expected to deal with it.
Oh,
And I vividly remember him sitting on the floor in front of the television, and every time something about the war would come on, he would start hitting himself in the head. And after a while, those hits went from the head to me.
Oh,
But I had to deal with it because I was told if I leave, I'm going to hell. So during the 5 years that I was married to him, we had 3 kids.
oh, okay.
So one day when he got, I I'm trying to capsulize it. I came home from work because I used to work for the New York City Transit Authority as a token, in the token booth. So I was working nights, and I came in that morning, and the youngest, she wasn't even a year old, and I remember holding her, and he started accusing me of going with the porter, whatever wore pants in the subway. And when he yanked me out of the bed and began to rain those punches down on me, I still had the baby in my arms.
Wow.
And I'm trying to cover her so she doesn't get hit. And that's when I made up my mind, well, I'm just hell bound because I got to get out of here. So
Yeah.
I got together with a friend of mine who helped me get another apartment in another part of New York, and Queens, New York, as a matter of fact. And I left him with a new house, furniture, everything. And when he was coming home from work, I was going down the steps, leaving. And I never looked back.
Yeah.
Now, fast forward, when 2 years later, when I met Rob, my
Now your real
real
husband.
husband, as I call him,
Yeah, I
the
get it.
real one. The odd thing about it was that he would not allow me to say anything bad about my ex-husband to my children. He never once, Rob never once uh, said said the word stepchildren or stepgirls or whatever. Those are his girls. And I think my youngest was like 3 years old when Rob and I got together. So anything that, if the girls wanted their father involved in it, Rob would go along with it. When my youngest graduated from nursing school, Rob and my ex-husband both walked her down. So it was that type of relationship because he felt that if that he was a bad husband, but he may not have been a bad father.
Right.
So if he was, then the girls needed to find that out on their own.
Okay. Well, he was why that was wise
But
in
by
him.
It was very.
the time I wrote this book, my ex-husband was dealing with Alzheimer's. Always got along. And I think it got to a point where my ex-husband finally came around to understanding why the marriage didn't work. But when I look at how my real husband, my Jubilee husband was, it was like, okay, God, were you testing me? Or was that church testing me? Because this man, it's like God asked me, well, Pat, what do you want in a husband? I said, well, give me some of that. Give me some of that. Make sure he can do this. And God gave me everything I wanted.
Yeah, that happens sometimes.
Yeah.
I wish it happened for every woman. I'll say that. I
Yeah,
wish it happens for every
it's
woman.
amazing because Rob, well, I don't know if some people may know, some people may not know, but Rob was with the Joint Terrorist Task Force, FBI. So my husband went around the world chasing terrorists. And when they had the 1992 World Trade Center bombing, that was my husband and his team that captured the first Muslim terrorists. So
Oh,
he
okay.
he solved the Queens uh, uh, bombing that they had, the Brinks job. He was awarded by I'm trying to remember her name, Joe White, U.S. Attorney General. He did a lot of stuff. But the funny thing about it was every time he got promoted or given a new assignment or whatever, he had to go through a security clearance. And Gwen, I love comedy, right? I love
Yeah.
comedy. I never took that stuff serious. So the first time they interviewed me, they asked me, well, does, your husband have any prejudices? I'm feeling good that day, So I said, well, yeah. So then they got serious. Well, what kind of prejudice does he have? I said, well, he don't like stupid people. Why did I say? Well, when Rob came home, he was too through with me. He was too through. But he was a good man. He was a very good man. And
Yeah,
whatever I did, he
he
supported.
supported it. Um, he it's been about 5 years, I want to say. Is that
Almost 10 years.
has it since he passed?
He died
Yeah.
well, 9 years. He died in 2013.
Oh wow. You
Time
know,
flies.
we've been Facebook friends since I've been on Facebook. So
Yeah.
it just seemed like it was closer than that. It didn't seem like
No,
9 years ago, going on 10. Because I know you talk a lot about your granddaughter.
oh, that little heifer. Oh,
Yeah,
she's in her
yeah.
teens. She's in her teens. Now, Gwen, I can't take it.
Oh, she's in her
I
teens now.
yes, she's a teenager now, and she just got a part in the Shrek Junior musical. So
Nice.
now I'm running her back and forth to, rehearsals and whatnot. And she's autistic. Show you how God
Oh,
works. She's autistic. She has a severe stutter and she's ADHD and
Mm,
can sing her tail off.
wow.
wow.
So God, and I tell her all the time, Moses stuttered and
Right.
God still used him. So
Yes.
don't let anybody tell you that you can't be what God wants you to be. What's for you
Amen.
is for you.
Amen.
And
Right.
I
You're
mean,
right.
she's got videos on YouTube. This little girl can sing, but she's
Oh.
a pain. She's a pain. And I can't take these.
You were saying
When,
that. I remember you posting stuff, when she was a lot younger. So,
yeah, it was
uh,
cute, man. It ain't
yeah.
cute now.
Well, but that's always the way it is when they're small. That's why you have to be kind of careful about calling stuff cute when they're young, because
They'll keep doing it.
a lot of times, and it's a lot
Well,
more
she has no filter. She has no filter. So I
filter.
told her
Okay.
one day, I said, I
Okay.
know that you have been diagnosed as autistic. And she knows that. I said, but if they ever examine you again and I find out that you have Asperger's, that's the only way I'm gonna stay off of you. Because this girl will say the first thing out of her mouth. She don't mean no harm. She
Mm-hmm.
just has no filter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay. Yeah, you want to pass a little
she
bit.
loves to pray. So what can I do?
Yeah. Well, I remember you doing your gospel comedy. Didn't you have them on DVDs?
I did. I did.
Okay.
Oh my goodness, I started my one woman show back in the 70s, actually.
Wow.
It was in the 70s.
Wow.
And
Okay.
God has blessed me to do cruise ships and theaters and colleges and churches. And I was doing it up until COVID hit. And I
Oh,
think I've
okay.
done maybe 2 shows since then. I said, nah, because, I ain't
Yeah,
going to test God like that.
you
No,
have to be a little careful. So you have some upcoming releases coming out.
I do.
Now, are
I have
these books, novellas, or what exactly?
books. They're books.
Full novels?
Pardon me?
Novels,
Full
like a
novel.
full
Yes,
novel?
yes,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Now,
I have.
so you had a high, what was your last publishing year prior to now? Do you
Did I-
remember what year it was?
last year I think
Oh, you had something
was it
come out
last year?
last year.
I think Choices came out last year, and
Okay.
Queen of Kingston came
Okay.
out last year.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah,
Because I
you
know it seemed like you had a hiatus, but you had said after your husband passed, you had to, you know.
Yeah, I put out some ebooks after he passed. Short stories, stuff like that.
Mhm.
Uh, Basically because everybody, I don't want to say everybody, but a lot of people kept saying, okay, you got to do something, you got to do something. Because Gwen, when I tell you that you never miss your water, so your well runs dry,
Mhm.
I didn't realize how this crazy man really helped me with my comedy because we were crazy and insane together, and he loved the Lord. I mean, he could go out and shoot a terrorist on Saturday and be up in the pulpit on Sunday.
Mm.
Yeah.
That was his life, you know.
Hmm.
But yeah, I did take a break, and I had to because it wasn't coming from the heart.
Right.
And if I don't write from the heart, you'll know it.
Right. I've heard that from, well, I've heard a couple of different things from people who've suffered from loss, a close loss, especially like a spouse or a mother. Sometimes people they either dive all into writing to, as a distraction, so to speak,
Right,
or
Brenda?
as a cleansing, mechanism, or they take a break to try to figure out, where do I go from here?
Right. Because I didn't know what I didn't know until my husband passed. You know, I didn't even know who held the mortgage on our house.
Mm.
I never had to pay bills. I never had to do, he took care of everything. When I tell you I was spoiled, I was spoiled. And I knew absolutely nothing. But he was smart enough to put like passwords and websites and stuff like that in a book.
So you could find
So
him.
that,
Mm.
I
That's
because
good.
he didn't die suddenly, he knew, he was dying. And I tell people all the time, for me, I think my marriage worked because we were always honest with each other, even if we hurt each other's feelings. So the day that the doctor called me on the phone and told me to get him to the hospital because the test showed that he was passing, I had to tell my husband that he was dying. Now, I would not have said anything if he didn't ask, but because he asked, I think because he knew
Mhm.
that he asked me, am I dying? And I said, yes, that's what the doctor says, but I need you to fight. So he hung on for like another almost a month,
Mm.
almost a month. But he knew the day that he was dying. I was there with him, and he told me, he said, I'm going home today. But I'm thinking he's going home to hospice because I had ordered the bed and the oxygen, and all that. And he said, no. He says, I don't want dialysis because I'm going home today.
Mm.
And that's exactly what he did. And Gwen, what's so amazing for me? He was singing. The Holy Ghost was in the room, and he was singing Tasha Cobb, Break Every Chain.
So he was
Mm.
good with where he was at that time.
Yes, yes, because he wanted to make sure that I was going to be okay. And he had a
Yes.
covenant with God that I believe it's Psalms 37:25, where I was young, now I'm old, but I've never seen
The
the
righteous
righteous
forsaken.
forsaken or the
Taken
seed
or
begging bread. That
yeah.
was his covenant with God for me.
Okay. Well, that's great. It's
So
it's 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 really heartwarming to hear about your relationship with your late husband,
Yes.
and it's good that you had the years, that you had the happy years that you had, especially after the first situation that was so horrific, that turned out to be so horrific.
Right.
So
but
tell us a little.
go
Oh,
ahead, I'm sorry.
well, tell us about your new books. What are they about? What are they?
Okay,
What's
well,
the general
uh,
plot, storyline?
in Good Vibes, which is coming out, I think, next year, it's part of an anthology, but it's a standalone book. And it's about my research and my search for information on a great great aunt who was an Indian chief. She was a female Indian chief, and everything that evolved around it. And in doing my research, I found out that my family lied a lot. I mean, she was an Indian chief, but she wasn't all that great. So I gotta tell that. And then the other one is a new series called Certifiable. And Certifiable is a NYPD retired couple who cannot solve a case to save their lives, but they always try to, outdo one another. So it's about their comedic efforts to change that narrative, and they get in all kinds of trouble. But it's funny, and it helps me. It helps me, get back my comedy chops.
Right. When
Yeah.
did you know that you were a comic? Like, were you funny in high school? A lot of
No,
people.
not.
Okay.
Mm-mm. I was a nerd. I mean, straight up nerd in high school.
Okay.
Uh, but I guess I knew I was funny when I would attend church with my mother and my parents and whatnot. And people would always say something stupid by the time I would get to the front door to get out after I'm trying to absorb this sermon, and I'm walking out feeling good. And they say something crazy and I couldn't say nothing back to them. So I started writing skits. And that's where those names came from. Reverend Not Enough Money and Deacon Laid Hands and Mother Pray on It. And it got to the point where I guess I knew these characters so well, Gwen, that people that knew them would say to me, okay, I know who you're talking about.
Mm.
I know what you're doing. So I just would do the little skits and whatnot. And then one day somebody offered me money.
Okay. And the rest is
Okay.
history.
Yeah, pretty much. Pretty much.
Now, somebody asked, and Lydia, she's a regular viewer, but she wanted to know what your name is. But Lydia, her name is behind her on that board. We can't see the Walker part. We can see it. You don't need to move.
George Walker. Can she see it?
At George Walker, and it's a
no. It's not George. It's George. There's no
George.
E there.
Well,
I always thought I was saying it wrong because
this
I
is
said
new
George
information.
I mean, if you write me a check with George on it, I'll cash it. No.
So you still have your sense of humor.
You know what? You have to. You have to.
I agree. Laughter is medicine to your flesh.
Amen.
It really is. So it's laughing is something that people should do more of. Sometimes people can be so serious all the time. They really don't take time to enjoy just the little things,
And when you're serious like that, that harms your health.
Yes.
Because you're so tense and so tired,
Right.
It harms your health.
It does.
So it's good to get out there and laugh. I do it.
It is. So Pat, tell us do you have a website still?
I do.
Okay. What's your website?
www.sisterbetty.com.
Okay, Sister Betty. And now, who is Sister Betty? Your alter ego, or is it your middle name, or what?
No. Actually, Sister Betty came about with a name, and the character came about from when I was a child living with my grandmother in South Carolina. And back in those days, they didn't have doctors that came out to your house when a grandma would go out there in the field and pick whatever herbs, that she needed. And this particular time, my youngest sister swallowed fire. She was told not to put kerosene on the hot coals, and she did it, and the fire traveled up her chest, and she kind of swallowed it a little bit, and she was raw. And my sister was very dark, and she was all pink. So they called this woman to talk the fire out of her. That's how they explained it, to talk the fire out of her. And she was this little short woman dressed all in white, had a little white hat, whatnot, and scared me. I mean, she scared me. And she had a handkerchief. She chewed something in her mouth. I don't know what it was. She put it in the handkerchief and then she spat on it and she started mumbling words. Now, I don't know if it was tongue or what, because I think I was, about 9 or 10 years old then. And she laid it on my sister's throat where she was burnt the most. And within a month, there was nothing there.
Wow.
Nothing there. When my sister died, she still didn't have a scar on her. So I never forgot how I felt about that woman and how close I felt she was to God. And I patterned Sister Betty after her.
Oh, okay. Well, Pat, it's been an amazing time with you this evening. Our time is up for the interview, but we really appreciate you being on the show. We loved hearing your personal story and about what you're doing now, and continued success and blessings for the rest of the year and in the future.
Well, I thank you for having me. Rhonda, I haven't seen you in I don't know how long.
It's been for a while.
It's
Look,
been a
we still
minute.
connect on Facebook.
Yeah. So
It's been a while. Between the three of us. Wow.
yeah, it's been a long relationship all the way around.
Yes.
So have a great evening, and we hope to see you soon.
Thank you for having me, and God bless your audience too. Bless you.
Thank you.
Okay,
You have
same
a
to
great
you.
night and a wonderful week.
I promise myself I am. I intend to.
Amen. Amen.
That's my joy.
Okay.
Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
All right. So that was Pat. What was it? George Walker. I always thought it was George all these years. 20 years, I thought I've been saying it wrong. Okay. So we're going to announce the books we have, but we're not going to do the trivia until after the second interview, since we're right up at the time. So the books we have tonight are A Glimmer of Death by Valerie Wilson Wesley. This is the actual book. And then we have an advanced reading copy of Our Gin by Diane McKinney Whetstone. So we'll do the trivia questions after the second interview. So we'll have some, hopefully have some time in between, because we don't want to take any time away from our guests. So our next guest is Vanessa Davis Griggs. She is a longtime Christian fiction author. And when she's had several series that were very successful. And if any of you are Facebook friends with Vanessa, you know that she's always sending money your way in the name of Jesus. So I'll describe it like that. And Vanessa, do you have a filter? Can you hear me? I don't have a microphone showing that you have sound.
Is her microphone turned off?
No, it's not showing a microphone at all. Now she's connecting to the audio. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
All right. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing
Wonderful.
great. And
How are you?
it's
Very
great to
glad to
see
see you.
you. And as I remember, and I made my memory, if memory serves, the last time I saw you, I think, I'm not 100%, but when we had the grand opening for our store, did I see you after that somewhere?
You did. In fact, I came to one of the events that you hosted in October.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. It had to be a while back though.
Yeah, it was, and it was really great. So
yeah, I remember having like conversations with you when we opened the bookstore, because you were at the grand opening.
I was.
I
Yes.
remember that. I remember
Yes.
that. It was you because we had several authors there. I think Omar Tyree was one of them, and some of the names I can't remember because it's been so long ago. But I do remember you, and I can't remember. It was something about you. You drove from Alabama. You lived in something about your transportation from Alabama. That's
Yes,
what
yes.
I remember.
I came from Birmingham, Alabama, and so I came in for that event, and then, like I said, we've kind of seen each other several times for different events, because you had something at another place, and I came and participated there, and then I was on a panel. Actually, it was doing book signing, and at another event that you had that was at the church. That was a lot of fun. Stephanie Perry Moore was there. It was a lot.
Okay, yeah. Okay,
Yes.
yeah. Stephanie's gonna be on after you too.
I know. She
So
sent me a message, and she's like, "I'm excited."
So you have been writing at least 20 years, at least.
Yeah, my first book came out in 1999.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Because we
It's
opened
been a
the
long
store.
time.
It has, because we opened the store in
I'm
2000.
still trying to get my head wrapped around the fact that 1999 was 20 years ago.
Well, more than that.
Yeah, it was more than that.
More than that. And now, okay,
Goodness.
now, and I'll go back one more step in that when Prince did that song,
1999.
1999 seemed like a long time
I
in
know,
the
I know.
future.
Right. I'm like 1999.
Now it's way in the past.
We're gonna be like the Jetsons in 1999.
Yeah, well, some of the Jetson stuff is coming to pass.
Yes, yes. I remember when we were in school, they used to talk about this phenomenon that we'll be able to talk on phones and you can see each other. And you were like, yeah, right.
I remember
And
that
here we
because they
are.
used to have it on like some of those shows. Well, Batman, I think, had it on. You know, some of the shows like that where the protagonist had special equipment, and they would always have something that other people didn't have. The Avengers too, the one with
Yeah.
the show The Avengers, not the movie. For the people who know about the movie, there was a show called The Avengers with Emma Peel. I don't remember the guy, but I think her name was Vanessa Rigg. What's her name? Vanessa Rigg?
It's close to my name. I don't
No,
know.
Diana Rigg. Diana Rigg. I think it was
Okay,
Diana Rigg.
okay.
But I'm just going back to some stuff when y'all were talking about the Jetsons and the phone in the past, where they were saying in the future. Now they still had the phone on the desk, you know, most of the
Yeah.
time with the picture. They didn't have something was portable that you had in your
Yeah,
hand.
who would have thought? I mean, you
Yeah.
know, it's like you can't even get away from people can find you no matter where you are, unless you're me. Not a lot of people have my cell phone number.
Well, I don't give mine out much either, because you know people.
I give mine out all the time. That's the
You
only way
do.
people can get in touch with me.
Well, but do you answer it?
I actually answer my phone unless my phone tells me it's a scam likely, then I won't answer it. But if
Okay, yeah, I don't.
a regular
I
number,
don't-
I might answer.
Yeah, I don't answer the potential spammers either.
Well, because I don't
Some
put
other
my phone
employment.
number, because I don't put my phone number on a lot of things, I don't get as much spam as most people. Because I don't care what people say. When they say certain things, I know they sell your numbers all over the place.
Yeah.
And so
they
and
do.
it makes me mad that people are trying to force you to give out your cell number. It's like, nope.
Mhm, they do. Now, what I do, I have a landline, and still for
Me
business.
too.
We've had the same numbers for 25 years, but the landline is forwarded to my cell, but people can't text me on it because it's a landline, so I give them that number.
See, this is why it's not good to be switching phone numbers. I still remember my grandparents' phone number, and it's been years since they passed. But I
And
still
don't tell it
remember the phone
because you know that's what people try to figure out how they can hack into your account. They go, "Do you remember your phone number when you were little?"
Yeah,
Or
I'm not telling anybody.
Yeah.
It's my memory.
So, Vanessa, what have you been up to for these past several years?
Oh, wow. Well, there have been times where I've done a little bit of writing as far as getting published, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Back in, I guess, 2015, I kind of decided to step back. And the reason that I did, you all probably remember when they were publishers were trying to decide if they wanted to go total ebook or, you know, they were struggling. And, you know, that was like, you had that 2008 crash that happened. And so there was all of this that was going on. And what most people don't know about me is I always pray about what I should do. So I'm always like, okay, God, what do I do now? And it was funny because, you know, I've had book deals with Kensington. I had 2 that was with BET. And then I've had 12 books that were published by Kensington. And the funny thing about it was they actually made me an offer for some more books. And I ended up walking away. So right now it's like, I would tell people this, I have so many stories. I have so many books. And I keep a lot of them, they're on my laptop. I'll start them and put things in so that when I go back to writing, which I will be doing it like I was before, I have all of these stories. Now, in the meantime, I've kind of expanded my my horizon, I guess you would say. There's sometimes we have life experiences and things in our lives, like, you know, you can kind of draw on that when you're writing. And the thing about me is I did something that was originally I went to work for this place part-time, and then they asked me to go full-time. And then I kept getting promoted, you know. And so I've kind of been exposed to some things that I normally would not have been exposed to, and people I normally would not have been exposed to. And the funny thing about that is it really has given me another depth, even with characters, because you get to see other people other than, of course, I create a lot of things with my characters, but it's always fun when you have certain things that you can add that makes it even better for the reader. So I am absolutely looking forward to being able to do full-time writing again. And I will say this, I'm the type of person where when I'm writing, I don't like to stop. So I used to work for the phone company, and I was there for 18 years. And it was like I wanted to write. And I would be writing at night, and I would stay up to like 2 o'clock in the morning. And then I had to get up and go to work. I always hated to stop writing. And I would be like in the elevators at work, and I would hear characters saying certain things, or I would be on my job doing on the computer, and I'd be typing things, and a character would come up and say, "Hey, let me tell you something." And I'll be like, "Not now, not now." And so, you know, so it got to a place where I said, Lord, I really would like to write full time. I did not have a book deal, so it wasn't anything like that. And there was something that happened to where it opened up. Let me just say this. I said something to God, and I said, if you do this, then I would leave. Well, it wasn't something I thought he probably really would do, because it was pretty big. And about 3 weeks later, it happened. So I had to keep my word. So I walked away from this very nice paying job, and a job I absolutely did love. And I ended up at some point getting a book deal with BET. And that was after I self-published, which I did do that. So I like to throw that out there. I usually tell people who say that they self-publish, don't say you're self-published, say I own my own company. Because what I ended up doing was starting a company, and I published a few of my books. One of my books was one that BET ended up reading a copy of. And so the editor there contacted my publishing company. She wanted to know if she could get in contact with my best author, which at the time she didn't know that was my company. And she was trying to steal my author from my company. But
she was trying to steal you from yourself.
Yeah. I told people, I said it was funny because I was the janitor, the secretary, the president, the author. So, you know, the bookkeeper, I was everything. And so anyway, but I did, they republished a book that I published called Promises Beyond Jordan. So okay. Promises Beyond Jordan came out. And it was funny because I did such a great job with that book that when they put it back out again, and they had a different cover, but if you turn the page with my copy that I laid it out myself, if you turn the page, they matched exactly. It was like until they started saying, let's skip have a blank page and then start the chapter, every single one of my pages matched. So, but they put that book out, and the other thing too was that I had another book I wanted to write, but I didn't want to publish it myself. So I sometimes God would have me to do a fast. So I did a fast in January. When I finished doing the fast, I said, okay, I'm gonna send some queries out to some publishers and see about getting maybe a book deal. Right after I finished my fast, that's when I got the call from the editor, Glenda Howard, at BET. And that's when she said, and her thing was, I like to do a 2-book deal. So she republished Promises Beyond Jordan, and then she published a book I wrote called Wings of Grace. So after that, they did offer me
at the right time.
Huh? Yeah.
This is all being in the right place at the right time.
Right. And also to me, it's about trusting what you're supposed to be doing, trusting that there will be a way made, whether or not you see it or not. So for me, it really is focused on what it is that you desire. And anybody who probably follows me on Facebook, in which I did do I went over to my Facebook page and I shared your link, Gwen, from your page. And so just to let them know that I was on. But the thing about it is people know that I'm all about words. And I do believe that words have power. I do believe that, it's funny because we'll do this. Like if I were to say, Johnny, come here. Here, Johnny, here. If I had a dog, here, Johnny, here, Peter, here, whatever. I expect that to come to me. So a lot of times we don't realize that when we speak things, like if I say, oh, I'm sick, well, guess what? You're creating certain things. If I say I'm broke, and I tell people there is a power in the word I am. And whatever you put, because if you notice, Moses, when he went on the mountain and he was talking, before he went to the mountain, he was talking to God and he said, who am I going to tell him sent me? And God said, he said, what is your name? Because Jewish people are big about names. He said, what is your name? And God responded, I am that I am.
Amen.
So I tell people, you don't realize that you're using God's name when you say, I am, and you're using the power behind I am. And whatever you put behind I am is what you're asking to be. So when I say certain things, like I'll post on my Facebook page a lot, when God leads me to, I'll say money coming. And I say coming, and it's not come or came.
Right. Cometh is present. Cometh is present.
And it's continual. So anyway, I won't be quiet and let you ask some questions because I'm excited. I told somebody, I said this, I told them, I said, you know what? This is like old times, because I'm gonna be honest with you. I get a lot of people that ask me to do certain things. I don't always say yes. But Gwen, when I got your email, I said yes. And I knew I was gonna be here. I don't care what it was gonna take, I was gonna be here. And if you knew what I went through today to make sure I was here at this time, you know how much this means and how much you mean to me.
Amen.
Oh, well, that's sweet, Vanessa. I tell people, I know so many people I've met and they're like old friends and it's just the number of people is in the thousands, because I've been in this space for so long that I've met a lot of people. I know thousands of authors, and there's a lot of new people coming on the scene that are doing some amazing things, which is gratifying. They're writing outside the box. They're creating new genres.
Yes.
They're just, and it's exciting. And so I'm glad to see that this is going to be a continuous thing. It's not, and what we try to do with this show is make sure it's continuous, and also that there's content, there's a body of content of authors all over, all genres, all generations, because we've interviewed children who are authors, and up until people in their 80s and 90s. So
hey Gwen,
yeah,
it was funny when I was first getting my books and I was self-published and everything. I remember hearing about Kush City. And I remember I printed, like back in the day, we didn't have Google where you could pull a lot of things. And I printed this list that had all of the different bookstores. And it was funny because it was a big deal to it's like, okay, if I can get Kush City to make sure they have my book in their store. And I just want to say right now, thank you for all that you've done, for all that you've been, for the opportunities that you've given people, for just even like with our books, to have our books in your store when a lot of times they weren't in a lot of places. So I just want to say that to you. It's just, when you think about it, it's not even just Black Authors Matter right now. It's not even the National Book Festival. It started back with Kush City.
Right. And Kush is the Kush in the Bible, not the Kush that some people ask me, is it that? No, it's not weed. It's for Kush in the Bible, the Black nation. And so that was intentional. We wanted to have a biblical connection. We wanted it to be Black without using the word Black, but with the power. And so, I've been able to minister to people just about the name of the business.
Right.
All, people of all races, because they don't know about Kush in the Bible. They don't know.
Right.
So I'm able to, it gives me an opportunity to, I ministered to some white people who didn't know there were Black nations in the Bible, So
And Rhonda, I remember you from sometime way back. I remember I got I think a message from you one time, and I remember you. So it's like for me, I remember your name. And so I was like, yes, I know Rhonda. She may not remember me.
Oh man, you have a long memory.
I do. It can be selective. Some things I forget, but there are things that are important that you remember.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, you
people
know,
that you
when we
remember.
started Kush City, I tell people it was truly a God thing, because while people back then, this is when the internet first was taking off. So we started in December of 98. We didn't have any money. We didn't have any real experience, but we had a message from God
Yes.
about doing the site. And within 6 weeks from the God message, we had a website up
Yeah.
and running and taking orders. And, you know, over the years we were running, you know, I would go to conferences and people were trying to raise money and get venture capital. And one conference I went to, the people they had raised $25 million and spent it, and they didn't have the website working. I'm like, what were y'all doing?
Yeah. I think you told me about that story.
What were you doing? And the money just got spent, you know.
Wow.
And so we've had an interesting journey. Just all the people we've met, just, you know, the people who were on the net doing what, you know, the innovators. It's only one that I remember that's still around from the people we originally met, because there was Black Voices, Black Planet, Net Noir.
Yes.
We met all those people.
Yeah.
AOL used to have a real big Black
Right.
presence.
I remember that.
And you know, they don't. So, but Dante Lee with Black News, I met him back during that time, and he is still around doing the same exact thing that he was doing.
Blackpr.com, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, but he has the blacknews.com website too. The PR sends out the press releases.
Mhm.
But his Black News, he has 500,000 people, I think,
Wow.
on his Black News Facebook page. He has worked that thing, and he's done it, and he's online with Google Ads, and he perfected that. I had wanted to try to get into that, but you know, he got in it early on and figured it out. And so it's just like anything. When you get into something early and figure it
Right.
out, you have an advantage
Right.
over people who come later. And I tell people that about just Facebook, building an audience on Facebook. Now it's almost impossible to build a big audience unless you spend a lot of money. I mean, a lot of money.
A lot of money.
And even then you might not get it.
I mean,
Or
sometimes
you're a
you might get
celebrity.
a big audience, but it doesn't mean that you're going to have the big engagement.
Or the right people in your audience.
Right.
Right.
You know, that's the thing. You want people who are like-minded or have similar interests, because there's power in that.
Mhm.
Whereas if you just have, you know, a whole bunch of, you know, random people who are not connected in any way, there's not the power in it.
Well,
So-
one thing that I did notice about when I had, I have a, you know, of course, your business page connected with your regular page. What I noticed though was that most people still wanted to be on my personal page, because I do have, you know, how you kind of, I still would talk about my books or put something in, but it wasn't all about my book. I think people want to know that you care about them as well. So what I noticed is, even though I had my other page, they still preferred to be over with the page where I was. And so, like I said, as long as it's not like you just go, it's just about me, it's just about me. You know, my thing is, I know a lot of people are hurting. I know a lot of people need to be encouraged. So
Yeah.
I try to do that as well. And it's not just every time you turn around, I'm just promoting my book, or I'm promoting, I'm going to be here. It was funny because I put that I was going to be here with you on tonight. And it was like, when I posted it, the funny thing about it was the amount of people who shared that message. And it was like, and I was looking at, I didn't realize you all cared that much. And then they were like, you know, making comments. So what I'm hoping too is that even with this, people are going to see you from here, and then they're going to support what you're doing after this, because I want, what you're doing right now is a great job, great thing. And we appreciate that.
Well, thank you. And you mentioned something too about, I never started a business Facebook page for Gwen Richardson. I thought about it, but my personal page, I had like the maxed out like years ago.
Mhm.
So trying to build something else, then I got to post in 2 places. And so
No,
I
just start
did
kicking people off. Kick off the folks
it.
who, like that are fake or phony, or they're just out there to be trying to spam your page, and get rid of them. Make room for the ones.
I'm gonna tell y'all a trick. When people's birthdays pop up, that's when you realize you're friends with people that you don't know or never
That's
engaged
true.
with. So normally when the birthdays pop up, that's when I start deleting. I'm like, I don't know this person.
Well, you're right, because when they come up, I say happy birthday to the people that
Right.
I've been engaged with,
Right.
Right.
for some kind of back and forth over the years. Some of the names I'm like, who is that? Because every day it'll be, if you have close to 5,000 friends, every single day you'll have 8 or 9 birthdays listed
Oh,
on
absolutely.
it.
And I do try to make sure I wish everybody a happy birthday every day. If I don't do anything else, and sometimes it may be late, I may come from somewhere late, or I'm out somewhere and I'm like, I gotta say happy birthday. Because what you don't realize too is how much that means to that person.
Yeah.
So there are
Yeah.
some people, when you do that, they are, oh my goodness, thank you so much. And you think it's not about me. If we can get that out of our heads, that whatever we're doing is really not all about us. And we think about, if I focus on something that will benefit someone, or bless someone, or encourage someone, or uplift someone, then I have done what I came on this earth to do. Now, maybe there are some people here who are just here to take, but my thing is like trying to make sure we give. And I got to be quiet because I'm looking at the time, and I know you all have somebody else coming in.
Well, you have 4 minutes. So just go ahead and take that 4 minutes to remind us about what you have going on and how we can support you and how we can find you.
Okay, well, I will say this. I did accept there's a conference that I'm going to be speaking at, doing a panel on in June. It's the Southern Christian Writers Conference. In fact, I have participated with them many times. In fact, what was funny was they're mostly, well, let's just say like this. At one point, there weren't many Black people that were in that position, in that part. And it was funny because I went and did just a panel one time. And because I think the panel was so powerful, the session that I did, it was so powerful that they ended up asking me to be, I was actually the featured speaker. And so, and keep in mind, the other person who was the featured speaker is the other person who, his name was Cecil Murphy. And he was like a huge, he had books that were selling in the billions. And so he spoke on Friday, and I was the speaker on Saturday, and it was just really great. So they asked me to come back and do a panel session in June. So I'll be doing that. And like I said, I am planning on having more books. I got some things I'm so excited about. I can't wait to get them out there. So I know people, they'll write me and they'll say, hey, Vanessa, you got any more books coming? Because I read your book 5 times, and they'll just reread them. And I'm like, wow. But anyway, but you can go to my website, which is my name, VanessaDavisGriggs.com. I'm also on Facebook. So, and it's up under Vanessa Davis Griggs up under Facebook. I don't do Twitter too high. Twitter's never been my favorite. And I think, yeah, I'm like, okay, but I do have a Twitter account, but I don't usually even go over there much. So if you go over there,
I don't think I've posted to Twitter in like 3 years.
I'm just starting to try to post to Twitter again. I'm like, you never know if somebody's going to see it. So that's usually like the last one that I post to.
Yeah, I surmised, I concluded years ago that to me, Twitter was just mean comments. That's
well,
I certain character account. A limited number of words or characters, but they're mean.
Right.
And that's just, I'm not mean. And I don't want to be exposed to just mean stuff. That's not me. I like to be happy, positive, and give people something that they can use, that can help them, inspire them, motivate them, encourage them. That's what I want. That's what I want to do. So, and that's what I want to be exposed to too. Because I will unfriend somebody who's like super negative, like on Facebook. If they just negative.
I've seen you do that, Gwen. I've seen you. You got somebody. You put people in their place. Like, look, I'm gonna tell you this, and don't come here saying this, and you let them know before you go. Oh yeah, let me tell you, lose. So they won't even be wondering why I don't see nothing she posted. You gonna know why.
Well, Vanessa, we're at the end of our time because we have to give away these 2 books before the next interview. But thank you so much. Thank you so much for being an intercessor for all of us in the book space and the body of Christ for all these years, and continued success to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Amen.
Okay,
It was great talking with you.
that was Vanessa Davis Griggs. So I'm seeing people that I haven't seen for a long time. This makes me happy. So, okay, we're going to give away these 2 books, and then we're going to have our next interview with Stephanie Perry Moore. So this book,
Oh, what happened?
I had a semi-accident. Anyway, now my microphone fell. So this book by Valerie Wilson Wesley called A Glimmer of Death. The trivia for this is the book's main character, who's Odessa Jones, has a psychic gift. And in the synopsis of the book, the psychic gift is also referred to another way. So it's another phrase that she uses for a psychic gift. So if you answer that correctly, this is a book, not an advanced reading copy. And this one, Our Gin by Diane McKinney Whetstone. The question for this, the trivia for this one is, the setting for this book is outside what major city? And if you answer that correctly, you'll get that. Okay, well, our next guest is Stephanie Perry Moore. And Stephanie, she writes, and she's always written for young people, for teens. I didn't realize that Stephanie had written 75 books. I mean, golly.
All right.
That's a lot of writing. So
yes, it is.
Stephanie, welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
I'm so excited to be with you ladies tonight. Good evening.
Well, we're excited to have you. Good evening to you.
Yeah, and last I saw you were at the festival. We had you as a featured author. I want to say it was like 2018. Was it 2018?
I think that sounds about right.
Because I think it was you. Were you there with Anita Bunkley?
Yes.
Were you there? Okay. So, and I think Eric was there too. Eric Jerome Dickey, was he there that year? But he was there the next day.
Yes.
That was actually, I think, his last one, if not one of his last public appearances in 2018 when he was at the festival. So
such an amazing writer who inspired so many of us. So thank you for that connection and reminder.
Yeah, he was. So Stephanie, 75 books. When did the first one come out? And how were you able to keep all of it going? And you had a hiatus, but now you have a new book coming out. So just tell us how you got started.
Wow, that's such a fun question, Gwen. I tell you what, again, I'm so honored to be on with you and Rhonda tonight, and all the other amazing authors that you had on. Vanessa Davis Griggs, a dear friend of mine too, as well as the other amazing authors this evening. You guys do such phenomenal work. So I have to say thank you. Black books do matter, and we can't do what we do without folks like you helping them get them out there. So thank you. My journey is a fun one. I never wanted to actually write books. I wanted to be an Aaron Spelling. You guys will remember if I say Love Boat or Fantasy Island or 90210 or some of those things. I think nowadays we call it another piece of Black girl magic. Shonda Rhimes would be the equivalent this day and age. But when I was growing up, it was Aaron Spelling. And I just was so enamored with one show after the other. And my sweet little brain was just thinking of one show after the other. And I sort of wanted to do that. And I speak to young people often as I write books for them. And I say, you know, how many books do you think I've written? And they'll give a number. Okay, well, what class do you think I did really well in? They'll say English, language arts. I was like, yeah. So what grades did I rock in their A's? And I'm like, nope. And they're like B's. I'm like, nope. And they're like, I'm like C's. And they're like, wow. I said, yep, freeze there. Some C's and D's. I didn't get F's. But at the same time, I had a dream young, knowing that I wanted to write, Gwen, to answer your question. And sad that I got in my own way. So I like to say to any dreamer out there, particularly during this month is precious to us, Black History Month, that we are our history makers, but we have to stay sharp and keep the dream alive and not quit. And so I had wonderful educators that said, listen, you are great and creative with this writing. If this is serious for you, let's go hard at it. So I liken people to say, whatever it is that's out there that you want to do, keep doing it. Do not quit and look at your strengths, work on your weaknesses. And in 1 year, I went from remedial English to honors English. We didn't have AP English back then. And I never looked back on the craft of writing. And so I went on to school and college at Auburn, but I still wanted to do television and film. And being in the South, there wasn't, as it is now, even in Atlanta, New Hollywood kind of the South, they label it and call it. There wasn't that then. But I did an internship with the Arsenio Hall show back in 1992 when his show was on. And this sweet little country girl got to go out to Hollywood. It was just so fun to be with the writers and understand what a writer's room was like. And they told me, you remind us of one of our first class of interns, because it was a minority internship that he had back then. So kudos there. And he was like, you should go to film school. Other folks were saying you should go to film school. And I was tired of school. I didn't realize education leads to money, and education can take you to the rest of your dreams then, which is why I'm so passionate now and speaking to kids. And it was so fun because they were talking about John Singleton, another great legend that we've lost. As we talk about Eric, I can only think of what they're doing up there now, you know? And so he went on to USC Film School after his internship with the Arsenio Hall show. And we all know, a lot of us boys in the hood, and how he went there. And so for me, I was like, I'm tired of school. Could you just get me a job? And they're like, okay, you want to write? Come on back. Went and finished my degree at Auburn, went back to California, and they were true to their word. They helped get me a job in the industry. And so I was writing music videos and working behind the scenes and learning just what it is to be crew, the hard work of being crew on anything. And then I got married to my husband now. We're going on 29 years, so I'm dating myself here. And he was playing in the NFL. And we moved to Detroit, Michigan, where, again, no place for television and film. And my father said, what are you going to do, miss? And Rhonda, you'll get a kick out of this. I was like, oh, I'm just going to volunteer. I'm just going to help the world. I'm going to be a NFL wife. And my dad's like, no, you're not. I paid for school. You didn't have the scholarship. And it was so funny because I had to realize, well, what am I going to do? I want to be a writer. And that's when I started writing books. We say to young people, you guys know it, reach for the moon, you'll land amongst the stars. For me, I think I wanted to write television and film, and the stars that I landed on was being an author, just understanding that whole world. But it took me 7 years to get my first book, Staying Pure, published. So it wasn't an easy journey, but that's how I got started.
Wow. Well, you've given us some real information, because I don't know how many people in the audience knew. I know I didn't, but I'm not in the film, that whole television world, but I didn't know Arsenio Hall had internships for, people of color, whoever at the time, to give them a start. Because for most people, especially in industries like creative, you just need your foot in the door, but you need it in the right door. Right. You need it in a door where you're going to actually be learning something that's going to lead you to something permanent. Yeah. And so that's new information, that Arsenio Hall,
I didn't know that
he had an internship for, and his show wasn't on that long.
That's correct. That's correct. It wasn't. And I was the second class of interns. John Singleton's class was the first class, but it was all minority groups. So Hispanics, Asian Americans, African Americans were who they targeted at the time. And again, this was the early 90s in which he was a leader in that. And just being on the Paramount lot, I know we're talking about books, but it's so great when you get books turned to film, and just all of that whole piece, scripts, and just the writing aspect, to know that Yes, a lot of people pave the way for all
Yes.
of what we do, and you guys are leaders in that space too by giving us a platform to even talk about books. So again, thank you.
Yeah, you know that was around the time when In Living Color was on.
Yes, it
Too, I
was.
think.
It was. And
Um,
and gosh, right around the corner on another lot, you had the all of the Cosby Magic with A Different
Mhm.
World. You
Yeah.
know, they
Mhm.
were also shooting Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I mean, it was a
Right.
lot
It
of
was a
great
lot.
shows
Yeah, it was a
that were
lot.
going on. A lot of people of color were in writers' rooms because of that. Moesha was kicked off right after that. So much good stuff was happening all around that time.
Yeah, Living Single was somewhere in there too, somewhere in the mix, somewhere in there. My daughter's watching. She's binging and Living Single this week. So
And how old is around is
one
your daughter?
one of her favorite shows. Huh?
How around what age is your daughter?
She's 26.
Yeah, so see, you're
Mhm.
right. My daughter's the same age. I have a
Well,
daughter, I
a
have two
different
daughters, but
world
one is
just
the
had a
same age.
whole rebirth. People just fell in love with a different world again.
Yes.
Mhm. It's true.
And then Debbie Allen, to think that she directed some of those
Yeah,
episodes, just
yeah.
amazing
Right.
with
Right.
all that. And it's still timeless now, those great
Yes.
principles to pass on to young people and anyone watching. For every episode, you could come away with some nugget that made you feel better from watching it. And that's the kind of stuff that I hoped each book of mine would be, as well as the type of things I long for to put, with television and film too. Positive, uplifting entertainment. They call it, it's a term now, Black joy. I didn't even know it was a term,
Oh,
but people are like,
okay.
that's what the
I've
world is looking
heard
for.
that term, but I didn't know what it was referring to. You know, it
Okay.
could have been, pillow talk stuff.
I'm sure it probably has different meanings. So yeah,
Well,
from
there's
what
a
it was
book
told
called
to
Black Joy
me,
now.
people are like, we get a lot of these stories or that stories, and it's like a lot of Black tragedy, but we need some Black joy on screen. And so that was an industry term that made me say, yeah, that's what I'm for.
Yeah, you're right. It's a lot of the Black programming for me. It's too tragic. I don't. The news is tragic enough, and I don't watch a lot of that.
A
But
lot
I
of
don't
our
want for
comedies have turned
entertainment.
into dramas. They started off as comedies,
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden the laughing went away and they just turned into dramas.
And take me to a place. So if we have to deal with the tough subjects, so that people can relate, that's okay. But can I leave on a high note? Can I
Yeah,
leave
can I
better
have
than I
some joy?
came?
Like
Can I have some
sometimes,
joy?
some joy sometimes, not
Absolutely.
everything doesn't have to be a downer all the time,
Yeah, absolutely.
like you're jinxed or something, And so it's just, but thank you for just reflecting, giving us a moment of reflection that just brought some happiness, just thinking about all of the content and some of
Yes.
those shows. Just it's a happy thought. So you write for young people. What would you say is like the common thread? Is there a common thread in all of your books? Or does it depend on the series? Because I know normally when people write this many books, there's some series in there.
Yes. So I do write in series, mostly 5 books, pretty much all of them, 5 books a piece. So
Okay.
it's 75 until the new ones drop this month, and then that will be 80. So to your point, I had a 5-year lull. So I really grew to appreciate the fact that though I continue even over all the span to chase that television film dream that I've always had, I've come to understand that my being an author means the world to me too. And I think sometimes you have to lose things to know, wow, this really does mean something to me. Wait, Lord, wait, I am grateful. Please give it back, and really do a lot of self-reflecting and understand that things change, times evolve, and it's not just about the creative, it's also about the marketing, and it's also about pushing it, which is again why I'm thankful to you ladies for just a platform to be able to talk about this, because sometimes people don't know what books are out there for passing on as gifts, to be able to read themselves, to give to other cultures, to understand a lot of our stories. It's just so many things that our books can happen. But to answer your question, I think my theme is still joy. All of my books are not an African-American story. I would say probably maybe 80%, maybe 85% are African-American stories. So Black joy does fall in that realm too. Even with my ones that I deal with suicide or abstinence and drinking, self-esteem, so many issues that are still relevant even today. And sometimes, unfortunately, because we don't want our young people to have to struggle with so much, self-identity, bullying, just a lot of these things. But can we take them from one place to maybe someplace better after reading the book or going through the story, that they feel like, okay, I can keep going? In most of the cases, it's from a faith-based standpoint. 50% of my work is faith-based, and the other half is educational. So I still would say, with educators and decision makers in school, no one wants you to put too much heavy material on young people. You can start there, but again, let's end on a positive note. So I like to think that's a running thread. My books are safe. If parents and folks like to do them, but I try to keep it edgy, because our young people, you can't fool them nowadays. They like to read up, so you gotta keep it hot and hip and cool.
And they see a lot.
They do, and they do. And some of the alternatives that you're competing against are adult stuff that you got, young people watching. And I just have a heavy heart for that we want to change the narrative and give them alternatives and programming that is for them, that's fun. But when we mentioned all the things we had, sort of growing up, after school specials, where are those? Where's some of that stuff in grade school?
Yeah. I remember when the whole family would watch shows together.
Gosh,
Y'all
look at you!
just bringing back so many memories.
Because when I was young, we only had one TV, and my dad was when he was home, it was what he wanted to watch, but everything was clean, so you didn't have to worry about content. It was just access.
Right. Absolutely.
And, but we had one TV, and everybody gathered around to watch shows. And now everybody has their own TV and their own phone and their own laptop, and so unless you really keep track of your children, you don't know what they're watching. You don't have any idea what they're being exposed to, because they used to say you could do some kind of parental restrictions on cell phones, and I don't even know if that was true when they said it, but now everything's available. Everything's available to everyone. I mean, unfortunately,
if you take the phone even away, they're able to get access from their friends' phone and this and that. So you're right, it's a lot. So what are we putting into our young people to help them make the better choices for themselves? What are some of the consequences for some of the things they're going through? And we as adults, we don't know it all. We don't get it all right, and so I like to, be with young people and put that out there. But we have been through some things. We want them to be better versions of ourselves, not worse. So trust us, we do care.
Yeah, and human nature, even though technology changes, human nature doesn't. Human nature stays the same. Technology is the thing that changes. And so that's one thing that I try to explain to my daughter. Just like our parents, we thought they were like, old-fashioned and strict, and didn't want us to have any fun, kids, but they knew things that we didn't know. And it's the same when you have children. You always know more than your kids, because you've been where they are and you've been where they're going, and they don't know any of it. They don't know any of what's in front of them,
Correct. And how to navigate some of these pitfalls. And so that's what I love about the books, that once you get in them and you're talking to young people, because sometimes we don't want to deal with ourselves, but if you can look at a character and you can talk about some of their pitfalls, before you know it, you can, say that's a parallel. Oh my gosh, let me change this about me before I do that same dumb thing that character did. Absolutely. It was dumb.
Right.
Don't you see? It was dumb. And then their friends are looking at them like, you did the same thing. And so it's so cute that the light bulb goes on and they're like, okay, I need to do some self-improvement here. And then that's when I'm like, yes. Exactly.
I think the other good part about it is, I know, at least for me, and I'm sure a lot of people my age probably went through the same thing, reading those books made me want to be a writer. It made me want to tell my own stories. Yes. So that's why I started off writing at such a young age, because I was reading so much. So by telling these stories, you could be affecting a whole new generation of writers.
That means a lot. I actually got a chance to talk to a young lady who is writing now. and she wanted to adapt some of the work. And it was just so sweet how she talked about when she was in high school, she was reading the Peyton Scott series, and then this series after that, the high school ones. And she's like, you know, Miss Stephanie, I didn't really have a lot of friends in high school. And I found her books, and I was trying to do things God's way. And there wasn't a lot of things that showed me what that world looked like. And when I started reading your books, your characters became my friends in my mind. And so she's like, I started writing, I started feeling more confident because your characters helped me to know what I needed to do. So you're absolutely right there, Rhonda. Hopefully it can help people, whatever their goal would be, writing, you know, being a business person, going on and just not getting in their own way. So yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I posted a few days ago, and it because something happened that we need to. I know we are very troubled when there's so many stories about wayward youth that are going on the wrong path, but the ones who are going the right way, we need to support them and encourage them. And what made this real to me was I went to the grocery store, and the grocery store where I shop is not in a Black area. It's mostly a white area. And so most of the people that you see in the grocery store are white, a few Black people. But when I walked in, there were two Black young men standing at the door. And clearly Kroger allowed them to do it because they were inside. But they said they played football for one of the high schools, and they were raising money for a trip. And, you know, they were nervous talking to people who, as they came in, I could hear the nervousness in their voices. But so when I went in, I said, okay, you're going to be here when I come out. And so, you know, when I went shopping, I said, I'd catch you on the way out. So I gave them $20, and they had a Ziploc clear thing, and I thought I was going to be giving 10 to each one of them, but they said it was all together. So they had a clear thing where they put the money in. But, you know, I said, they're doing the right things. You know, they're not, you know, they're on a football team, so they're learning a team sport. They're going somewhere with their lives. They're trying to do the right thing. So they need the support. And so we need to keep that in mind all the time. And I'm sure a lot of the viewers do that, but, you know, I'm part of a group that gives scholarships every year. So, you know, and Rhonda's part of a big group that gives a big scholarship every year, the Zeta Phi Beta sorority.
I do, and then I also give my own scholarships. I have my essay contest for 8th and 9th graders, and I have a graduating senior scholarship that I award in the April-May timeframe.
We just need it. I'm so thankful for both of you guys. I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and we, you know, of course, do scholarships across as well. And just the partnerships with the Divine Nine is just amazing on how we get out there. But we've got so many other great organizations, NAACP, you know, the
United Negro College Fund.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just so many great ones that are out there that I love. Our community coming together. It sounds like when we all grew up, we had a village raising us. And that's what I want a part of the books to be, a village that can come alongside any educator, parent, to push the young person to, hey, try this. You know, there's not something right now that a kid is going through that I'm hoping I haven't covered in a book, or if so, I would want to continue writing, even with the new series that's coming out, Magic Strong, to start covering some of these things, because a lot of our young people, particularly our elementary schools, our kids are not on grade level. They are significantly
especially since COVID.
And that's made it
even
worse.
before COVID, but COVID made it worse.
There's I think growing up, you know, we didn't have as many things competing against reading. We could sit down and read. All we had was TV. But now there's the internet, there's video games,
there's streaming,
there's TV, there's this, there's that, and there's so many things competing that kids just don't want. We can't even get adults to sit down and read a book anymore. So it's hard to convince kids to do it.
Gosh, and when I say off grade level, I mean, we've, you know, I volunteer and we're working with schools that are 65%, you know, failing schools, 70% not on grade level, 75%, and one school is 80%. And last week I ran into an educator that's at a school, this 90% of the children are not on grade level where they need to be. That's fifth graders reading on a third third grade level, or fifth graders reading on a second grade level. It's just a lot. And so then when we say to our base, hey, this is a crisis, because these young people 10 years from now, they're going to still be behind. So we won't have a lot able to qualify for college and go on to just other season their own life for their own greatness if they can't comprehend some things that are basic that they need now. So
right, we're setting them up to fail is what we're doing.
I hope we're not.
And so there needs to be and I don't know if it'll ever happen, because I don't think that the pressure is not there politically for them to invest in our people, schools. I mean, the K through 5 really is where they need to be putting, instead of putting it in the, machines of war, they need to be investing in K through 5. That's where it starts, because if you don't get that foundation, it's going to be extremely difficult to do well after that. And so
I hope, if I may, I can talk about Magic Strong. I know we're
please do.
time. I've so enjoyed this time with you
Please
guys.
do. I was going to say that next.
You gotta have me back. Magic Strong is a 5-book series. It'll be out this month. And Magic is a young man that's one of those kids is in 3rd grade, not on grade level. He's a 3rd grader reading at a 1st grade level. So what does that mean? He's got to be in call outs. He's not special education, which that's okay when kids are diagnosed with that too. We love on them. We get them to where they need to be. But some of our kids are very smart, but some particular things are a little over their head and they need extra work. So they go to early intervention classes or just a call out here or there for a special group with a special teacher to reinforce what they didn't get in class. And so here's Mr. Gray, who's a wonderful male teacher, which we need more of them in our elementary schools as well across the country. And he's like, hey, learning is not black or white. It's a gray area where you use your imagination when life and everything comes to life. And so you've got Magic, who's a strong, smart little boy, and his twin friends, Rex and Reva. The 3 of them go to Mr. Gray's class and they learn concepts. So Mr. Gray, is he a magician? Is it all in the kid's imagination? But it's like sort of the Magic School Bus, where the web, a spider web in the real classroom becomes larger and larger and larger, and the kids go through the web as it becomes a door, and it transports them to the circus. And they learn how to do a web diagram and learning to write a paper, beginning, middle, and end. In book 2, they go to the aquarium to learn how to, do the analog clock, because you can't get to the different the different pieces of the museum or the different ones if you don't know what time to be there. So you got to learn how to tell time to be there. The trash can in the room turns into a space rocket, and they go to outer space to learn the planets and the moon and the sun. A branch and turns alive in a wand, and they go to DC to learn the 3 branches of government. And in the last book, Park Wand, they go to the amusement park to actually learn how to paint. So we got English, math, science, social studies, and then of course the arts as well. And so just a fun series. It's an early chapter reader book with Crabtree, and we're working to turn that one with South Carolina Educational TV. And South Carolina is ranked number 49 out of 50 states with education. So I'm very excited that they have greenlit the pilot. So my sweet little dream, bringing the conversation full circle of wanting to do television and film, I'm like the little engine that could. So I say to my struggling readers out there, I get it. It's not going to be easy to go uphill, but when we all come together, when we keep those dreams alive, hopefully we can be magic strong in our own lives and reach those dreams. So I thank you, ladies, so much for having me. And hopefully people will check out the series.
For our youth. And I love it.
So now the Magic Strong, when does it come out?
Yep. So it's supposed to be the 24th of this month, dropping the last week of the month. I'll make sure so hopefully you can tell all your readers and viewers, but they can see it online now. Magic Strong. It's my first illustrated series, and it's a wonderful African-American. He is actually African gentleman who's like 26, your daughter's age, my daughter's age. That's the illustrator. So I'm so proud of this young man. And so he brings the books to life. Magic's got flat tennis shoes. The shoe game is all in full force. So we're really hoping that it'll trend well with our young readers.
And where can we find this?
anywhere books are sold. Again, it's with Crabtree Publishers. They're an educational publishing company that does, and it's under their brand Leaves, which is Leaves, Leaves, and that's
Okay.
the brand for that early chapter reader series. So it's only about 35 pages, something for young people that are struggling with reading to read, feel excited about, and then go on to the next book. And hopefully that'll increase their reading level, as there's a lot of ancillary material for them to test, and with educators to help the kids as well grow and, increase their reading level.
Now, did the books all get released at the same time, or are they going to
They
be
do.
staggered?
They all get released at
Okay.
the same time. The
Okay.
test and all those things are there, so that you don't have to read them in order. Each story is an independent story, that kind of
Okay.
thing.
Okay. Now, before we go, because we are at the end of our time, people look you up. You go by Stephanie Perry Moore for your writing.
I
And you
do.
use-
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Stephanie Perry Moore for your writing, because it says more there. So look up Stephanie Perry Moore. And I wanted to just say thank you to both you and Rhonda, because part of my daughter's journey of going to college debt-free, she got scholarships from both the Zeta organization and the Deltas. So thank you all for being part of her debt-free journey going to college.
I'm so proud. And where did she go to school?
Oh, she went to North Carolina Central for
Wow.
her undergraduate, and that was totally debt free. She had some debt for graduate school for the 1 year she had to do the Masters of Accounting, but she paid that off in 2 years and 2 months. She said 2 years, 2 months, that debt was gone. And if they do cancel some debt, she'll they
Correct.
do a refund. They actually will refund you if they do the debt cancellation.
We're so proud of her. I'm just so thrilled to hear that. My 2 daughters are the same. Sydney, Mississippi State. She is a news anchor, evening news, 26 years old, in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Wow.
So she's home.
Okay.
Isn't that great? Like, yay.
Yeah, that's
And then Sheldon just got her master's.
yeah.
Since we're
Okay.
bragging on daughters.
All right, Rhonda.
Brag on yours now. Let me
brag
hear
on
before I
yours.
go. Tell me about your baby.
My daughter graduated debt-free as well from
Okay.
Atlanta University. And she is now working on her master's at the University of Maryland, and she's in the Disney College program at Disney World in Orlando.
And so what does she plan to do?
She's teaching. She
Love it.
actually already had a job as a teacher, and they allowed her to go to the Disney College program. They said they would hold her job until she got back.
We have to get the girls
Wonderful.
together. We just got to do it, y'all.
Yeah. The
I
sky's the
appreciate
limit.
you.
Think big. Thank you so much, Stephanie. We
Thank
love
you
seeing
so
you.
much. Y'all have a
And-
great
and-
evening.
You
And
too. It was
wait
so
to
good
send
talking
me
with
your
you. I
book.
really enjoyed this conversation.
Me too. And your series, congratulations on that.
Thank you. 5 years. And hey,
Yeah.
they just signed me to my next one. I don't have to wait 5 years anymore. Isn't God good?
God is good.
All righty.
All right. Have a great evening.
You too.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we're going to bring on our last interview, but before we do, we're going to find out who won the books. Now, I saw somebody said Philadelphia, which was the
I
answer.
think that was Lydia, but I'm trying to make sure nobody said it before her.
Okay, well, while you're checking that, I'll bring on the final guest, and you can tell me who won these books.
Yeah, Lydia won the one
Jen.
for Diane Whetstone.
Okay, that's our Jen. Okay, Lydia.
Yeah, our Jen.
Okay.
And I don't see an answer for the other one.
For the other one. Okay. All right. Well, we'll find out. Our final guest for tonight is Venise Berry, and Venise has her most recent book is called Racialism and the Media, and her subhead is really interesting when I saw that, because her subhead is Black Jesus, Black Twitter, and the first Black American president. So I thought that was interesting. And she also is a co-author of the Historical Dictionary of African American Cinema and the 50 most influential Black films, which I would love to hear what some of those are. But Venise, did I pronounce your name correctly, Venise?
Absolutely, you did.
Like Denise with a V. Welcome to Black Authors Matter TV.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. I'm
glad
very
to have
excited.
you.
I haven't seen Stephanie in ages, and I think it's really interesting. Just people have been around for so long. I've been around probably as long as she has, And we went off and did other things and then came back. And so it's been really exciting.
I remember your book, All of Me, and a Voluptuous Tale, and The Colored Sugar Water, because that's when we had our bookstore. And so I remember those two titles. So, now I don't remember the So Good, but that came out in '96. That was before we had the store. So I don't remember that one.
I got lucky and came in kind of on the coattails of Terry McMillan's Waiting to Exhale.
Okay.
Everybody was looking for their Black writer, their Black female writer.
Yeah, coattails are good.
I know I'm looking for some now because I'm trying to get back into the fiction writing business. I had to get out of it because I was on tenure track at the University of Iowa. So I had to work on my research and my nonfiction.
You had things to do.
So I was like, okay, I'd like to get back into it, but it's not working right now. I'm still looking for an agent. But anyway.
Well, we do have if you want to look at our YouTube channel for Black Authors Matter TV, we've done some compilation videos from interviews of people who do similar subjects. And we have one called How to Find a Literary Agent, or you might want to look at it. It might have
I will. Thank you.
Just go to YouTube, to our YouTube channel, and there's a how-to playlist that we've created with how-to videos. So, and that's for all of you all are watching. We're doing some compilation videos. We have so much content. With 2 hours of this show for going on 3 years, we have interviewing approaching 500 people we've interviewed over that time. Individual people, not 500 interviews, 500 people. So we have a lot of content. And so I've been working on organizing some of it around topics that people ask about. And so if we had guests under those topics, we just take a relevant portion and compile them. So now tell us about, well, first, I'd like to hear some of your journey from being a fiction writer to all of the interesting nonfiction work you've done. I know some of it's school related, college related, but the topics that you pick, those are yours that you decided to select.
Absolutely. So, well, the two Black film books are with my brother. They're co-authored with my brother, who was a film and TV professor at Howard University for 25 years. He's retired now, and he's back here in Iowa, where I am with his son. And so we wrote those together. And then
well, how did that conversation come up? Were you guys just maybe talking with each other and say, hey, let's do a book together?
Yeah.
Well, we often talk about films, like we criticize films, or critique, not criticize.
And so it's a much better word.
Yeah. So at one point I said, we should do a book. And so we started talking about it, and we came up with the 50 most influential Black films. And so what we did was he picked his 50 and I picked my 50. And then, so we did them separately, and then we saw which ones we had together. And I think we had maybe 37 and 38 that were the same.
Overlapped.
Yeah. And then it was so much fun because I either had to convince him to keep different ones of mine, or he had to convince me to take different ones of his. So we went back and forth about some of them, which was really interesting. Some of them we really wanted to, like, for instance, we wanted to make sure we had various directors represented. So we decided what were the best film of this particular director that we wanted to include. We wanted to make sure that, we had films that fit certain eras. We wanted to make sure we included like the best film from that era. But it was an interesting experience.
Sounds like it.
Now name some of the films that are on the list. Well, first I want to ask you a couple of these movies that I think would be on the list if they're on there, and then tell us some of the, like, 3 of the ones that are on the list. But I think is Sounder on the list?
I do believe it
with
is.
Cicely Tyson and
Yeah, I know
Paul
Sounder.
Mescal.
You know what? I have not looked at that book in so long, and if I'd have known y'all were going to ask me about it,
Oh, I'm
I'd
sorry.
have grabbed one.
Because it did come out in 2001. I just found that whole topic to be interesting because, you know, we haven't had anybody else on that's done a book on Black films, just like a compilation of films. We've had
Yeah.
music people, you know, we've had other people who, you know, people who compile just history in general, but not films.
Yeah, and the thing that was really interesting about it, what we wanted to do was we wanted to put them in context. So once we got the 50 films we were going to select, there's a section where we actually talk about what was going on
During the time.
during that period when that film came out. And we
Okay.
talked about the reviews. We have a section on the reviews. How did the reviewers address that film? So we did a whole series of things like that that at the time, you know, it was exciting. But like I said, I have not been involved with that in so long.
I understand when people ask me something out of a book that I wrote 10 years ago, I may or may not be able to answer the question. So I do understand what you're saying.
And then what was really interesting, the editor of the Historical Dictionary of African American Cinema saw our 50 films book and contacted me and asked me if we wanted to write that one. And so we said, well, yeah, sure. And so we started working on that one together. The Historical Dictionary of African American Cinema. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Are those books still in print?
Yeah, I do believe they are, but the historical dictionary, I think it might be a little expensive. I was really angry when it came out because I was like, it was almost $100, and I was like,
So it's for a textbook.
Yeah, it's my book, and I wouldn't pay $100 for it. I might go out there and promote this book and get people to buy it. So anyway, I was really not happy about that. And that's part of what happens when you go with a publisher that you're not familiar with. But anyway.
Yeah. So so how did you go from your novel writing? How did you do that segue from writing novels to writing the
I got my first one accepted, like I said, So Good, an African American love story. Basically, I came in on the coattails of Terry McMillan, and we did a 1-book deal, and the book did very well. It was on the Essence Blackboard list and all of that stuff. And so they gave me another 2-book deal contract. Okay. And it was funny because I never really envisioned being a writer consistently. So I wrote that first book just because it was just kind of something interesting that I wanted. I started as a screenplay. I wrote it as a screenplay originally for a film. And then I decided to turn it into a novel, to expand it into a novel. So I'm like, dang, do I have 2 more books in me? So I really had to think and figure out what I wanted to do. Now, the interesting thing for me was, you know, one of the problems I have with the industry is the mentality is if they sold it once, they could sell it again. Yeah. So what they wanted me to do was write the same book over, but write it a little bit differently. And that wasn't in my head. All of Me, A Voluptuous Tale, a book about not about relationships necessarily, but about self-esteem and loving yourself and weight issues and how they, you know, deal with your mental health and stuff. That was what I wanted to write about. And I mean, I went round and round with my editor. She finally accepted it, but I was like, I don't have another relationship book in me. And then at the end of that book, at the end of All of Me, she's not in a relationship, and basically my editor kept saying, well, why don't she meet a man? You could at least have her meet a man. And I said, that's not what this book is about. This book is about learning to love herself. And so at the end, she has to be alone and okay. So anyway, and then Even Colored Sugar Water, which is about spirituality and thinking about what people believe and why do they believe it. The main character, Lucinda Merriweather, believes in everything. Voodoo and all that other kind of stuff. And then her best friend Adele was not raised very religious, so she doesn't know what to believe. And they both kind of take different journeys to their own, to understand their own faith. And again, not about relationships. So I left, so when I finished that, I decided that, oh, I better go ahead and get some research done and do some nonfiction stuff so I could get tenure and at the University of Iowa. Because the nice thing about Iowa is, we are known for writing because we have the Iowa Writers Workshop here, and which is very well respected. And so they let me count my novels, but I was on a research track, so I still had to do some research. So the current book, the book that I have sent to you on racialism and the media, basically involves my research. That's what I worked on that research for more than probably 20, 25 years, trying to figure out just what are some of the issues in relation to race and media, and how do those images and messages influence us as an audience? And I'd like to take a minute, if I can, just to do some examples, just to kind of give people a feel for what my issues are.
Okay, sure. Do you need to share the screen?
Yeah, I need
Okay,
to
well,
share
I have it set up for screen
I
share.
like the way you put that, to give people a feel for what your issues are. That should be interesting.
Yeah, because again, my brother and I, we talk about all kinds of things. And so we know there are various issues, and I wanted to just really take some time to try to help people understand how the media. Okay, can you guys see that? I'm going to switch
Yes.
to the slideshow. Let me switch it to the slideshow, play from start, and take this out. Okay. Oh, that's okay. Let me just go past all this. Why is it not going down? Oh, there it is. Okay, so what I'm doing in racialism, and I think what I'm going to do is, wait a minute, let me go down first. Okay, racialism, it involves racial ideas and images and measure different issues that are produced, distributed, and consumed repetitively and intertextually. So really, I wanted this to be an umbrella kind of concept. So it includes several different elements: stereotypes, biased frames, historical myths, and traditional racism, particularly in relation to African-American culture, which is what my research was on. And what I argue is that this is a normalizing process through the media. And ultimately, social ideology and behavior are shaped and influenced as we experience various media representations. So now let me go back. So for example, this is an image, this is the cover of Vogue magazine, okay? And I would label this under historical myth. Now this was very controversial. What they did was they posed LeBron James as King Kong. And instead of a bat, he has a basketball. His mouth is wide open like he's growling, and he's holding on to the white woman. Now, one of the things that historical myths involves is the idea that Black people, because they come from Africa, are savage, they're apes, they're uncivilized, all of those kinds of ideas that are problematic in relation to, who we are here in America in connection with our ancestors in Africa. So this is an example of like how historical myths get perpetuated in the media in relation to Black people. Let me go to the next one. This one is interesting because this is an example of just a general stereotype. So I saw this ad, it is an ad for Kool-Aid, and it said old school flavor, new and sugar-free. And a young man has his Kango hat on and his hush puppies, and she, is holding a glass of Kool-Aid. And I remember looking at this image saying, well, what's something weird is going on? And then I figured it out. It's like, why is that basketball under his foot? He's not on a basketball court. He's not even wearing tennis shoes. Somebody who is thinking about the stereotype of Black men as athletes said, oh, we need a basketball under his foot. You know what I'm saying? It's like, because somebody put this together, somebody developed this, so that stereotype gets connected to this image of a Black man. And the interesting thing is, it's so subtle that a lot of people would just accept it. They would actually just accept it. And we do that all the time now with stereotypes, because some of them have been done so often and so consistently that, we accept them. This is an example of biased framing. This is Fox Nation when President Obama was in office. And basically, Obama had his 50th birthday when he was president. So he had a party. And this is how Fox Nation framed his party, the news story. Obama's hip hop barbecue didn't create jobs. Now that's interesting because, you know, the right wing or the conservative groups think that hip hop is a negative thing anyway. So the first thing they want to do is tie it to hip hop. And then of course, we got barbecue tied to Black people. That's a stereotype tied to Black people.
Because we definitely don't eat all the barbecue.
Right. But it didn't create jobs. And then the other thing that's interesting, that's just the wording. The other thing that's interesting are the images. There's only one rapper there.
Yeah.
But it's they lumped all these Black men into hip hop. So you got a comedian, you got the president, you got an athlete, Charles Barkley. They're all
the
hip hop.
only one that's hip hop is Jay-Z.
Jay-Z, right. But they framed it as if, okay, here's all these Black men, they're connected to hip hop and barbecue, and Obama had them at the White House and they didn't create jobs. So again, biased framing is an example of that, where they framed it in a very negative, biased way. This is historical myth as well. Re-civilize yourself. This is Nivea. A Nivea ad. And if you notice, it says it's a Black man with a short haircut, but he's holding on to his head, which has his natural hair, and he's getting ready to throw it away. At least that's what it looks like to me. And
whoever did this ad should be fired.
Exactly. Re-civilize.
It doesn't even make sense, and it's insulting.
Well, if you have your natural hair, I guess it's uncivilized. That's the basic premise.
That head doesn't even look like him.
Well, it is. And then finally, traditional racism. This was a bumper sticker during when President Obama ran for his second term. This was a bumper sticker, and I consider bumper stickers part of media. Don't renege in 2012. Stop repeat offenders. Don't reelect Obama. And of course, we know the N-word is the NIG is short for the N-word. So again,
now, where did you find the bumper sticker?
Well, what happened is in my class, I teach a class called African Americans in the Media, and I've been teaching it for 20 years. And my students keep a media diary during the semester. And so they're helping me look as well. I'm not looking by myself. So they turn in stuff. And one of my students turned this in during the campaign. He found it somewhere down south. And
I saw a lot of insulting bumper stickers during that time.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, we were on a road trip taking our daughter to school, and there was a road, somebody, well, in Texas, once you get outside of the cities, it stretches of land that there's nothing but just land and a house here, a ranch there. But somebody had put a big sign on their front lawn that said impeach Obama. I took a picture. I stopped and took a picture of it. Wow. Because that was just like, it was a big sign on his front lawn. So he really meant it, I guess.
Wow. Now this is hard to see, but during the Katrina hurricane, this is 2 articles out of Associated Press. And one, there's 2 on the left side, there's 2 white people and they're in the water. And you can't really read it, unfortunately, but it says, 2 residents wade through chest deep water after finding bread and soda. And on the right side is a young Black man. And it says a young man walks through chest deep water after looting a grocery store in New Orleans. So I just want, one of the things I wanted to pay attention to under racialism is wording, how the white people found bread and soda and the young man looted a grocery store. So again, this whole concept of how do words influence us and impact us? How are they used in certain ways? There's a general use of race, of course, in a lot of different advertisement. This is cute. This is not, I don't think this is negative, but it's just helping people understand that race is used in a lot of ways in advertising and other parts of the media. This is Life cereal, maple and brown sugar, has a little Black boy and a little Black girl, which is really cute. And Regular Life has the white mother and her son, which again, is just kind of a general use of race, but it's not a negative. And it's kind of cute, actually.
Thought
Maple
the
and
brown
brown
skin
sugar.
looked better against the brown box.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Oh, that's a
Absolutely. And it is a brown box versus a white
that's
background.
a
A brown
generous
background versus a
uh,
white background.
that's a generous
Pantene did that
analysis,
too.
Rhonda.
Pantene did that in their ads too. At one point, they had brown bottles for the shampoo and conditioner that they advertised to Black women, and white bottles for their
Yeah.
shampoo and conditioner for
Pantene.
Black women.
Mhm.
You know, there was something circulating real quick. It's something circulating on, my daughter showed it to me on Instagram, about the characters from what show was it? They grew up, the characters grew up and they were from an animated cartoon show. I can't remember the name of it now, but they were showing the characters grown up like 10 years later. And they had everybody among the cast with a family, a husband, wife, kids, except for the Black character that was just a woman with 2 babies. And so, and people complained about it. And then the person who put it together said that they made an excuse that it wasn't the final draft. It wasn't the final. It was just a draft. Yeah, but your draft still was a stereotype. So anyway, but that's recent. That's been in the last week.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'll have to look for that.
Yeah. I
I'll
wish
have
I
to
could
look for
remember
that.
the name of the show, but I can't. But I'll ask my daughter and I'll message you after.
Okay, excellent. And then these 2 images are just one to the left, the Black father with his son. I consider that an oppositional image, which is positive, because we get so many negative stereotypes about Black men, especially Black men and their kids. So this Tide ad is an oppositional ad, which is positive, which is really nice. You know, the Black man with his son. And then on the right, this is an issue of what I call positionality, or what is called positionality. So you got to give Gerber credit. They got the Asian baby and the Black baby and the white baby. So they made sure they had all the different areas of, or not all, but different areas of diversity. But they set the white baby in front of the Asian and the Black baby. That's problematic, because that gives him this kind of importance over, you know, whenever somebody's in front of somebody else, they have a kind of a importance, which is problematic.
Right. I'm in charge and these are my 2 backups.
Yeah. So
Right.
I mean, but they did include diversity, but they
did,
set it up
but you
wrong.
know, a lot of people don't even realize that they're being programmed by images.
Absolutely.
They just don't know it. And none of what we see is by accident or happenstance.
Absolutely.
It's all writing and casting. It's planning.
Yes. Somebody is creating.
Somebody's making a decision.
Absolutely.
This is why representation matters, because often these types of images are put forward not on purpose, but because they don't have somebody to tell them that it's problematic. So when everybody in the on the marketing team looks the same, they think, hey, what's the big deal? They don't see it as a problem, but there's nobody who's in a position to tell them that this is problematic.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then I just wanted to make sure that people know that, you know, I didn't do this to let racists off the hook or let racism off the hook, but I did want to kind of expose and deconstruct and critique the variety of factors that make up the connection between race and media. That's really what my book does. And it's an effort to provoke serious change when it comes to the problematic racial images and messages that we have all come to know and love. And we have, I mean, everybody loves Medea, but Medea is a straight up mammy stereotype. You know, Mr. Brown is very popular, but Mr. Brown is a Zip Coon stereotype. He's a contemporary Zip Coon, but he's still a Zip Coon. And then this is the cover of the book, Racialism in the Media. Okay, I can take this off.
Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing all that. I didn't know we were going to have that much information, but that was a great, that was a great way to end the evening, so we can educating our audience. That's, you know, with the slides. I love that, because we didn't pre-plan that. I want you all to know, I didn't know she was going to do that. It's great. So
well, sometimes, you know, when you're talking about it, it just makes so much more sense to show people. It is. I can't really describe it very well. And then people, hopefully, who have watched it will start to look and say, oh, you know what, that's a problem. That's what I tell my students all the time. When you walk out of this class, I don't want you just to forget everything we've talked about. I want you to pay attention when you're looking at TV or watching, at a film or listening to music. Pay attention so that you know when certain stereotypes or biased frames or historical myths or even traditional racism is there in front of you, so that you can really do a better job of understanding how those kinds of representations influence you and people around you.
Well, Venise, we're at the end of our time. Let people know how they can. Do you have a website that you can refer them to, or your social media?
I do. VeniceBerry.com. It's one word, VeniceBerry.com.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the website is in the chat already.
Oh, great. Yeah, it is.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. It was an incredible educational experience, and continued success to you with all your work that you're doing.
Thank you very much. And I will check out your file that you wanted me to. I'll look at that.
Yeah, I'm going to send you what my daughter told me about.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I want to do that too.
After.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you
Take
so
care.
much.
Thank
you too.
Well,
Okay. Well,
before we end the night, I did overlook that Janice Kearney was answered the other question.
okay. So Janice gets this book here.
Yes.
Okay. We're good to go on that. Janice and it was Lydia for the other book, right?
Yes.
Okay, Lydia Brew.
Mary says she was quiet tonight.
Okay, well, Mary, thank you, because you won a lot of books. And thank you for being so benevolent and considerate of others. Anyway, that's the end of our show for tonight. We appreciate you all tuning in, and we will see you next Tuesday on Black Authors Matter TV. I'm Gwen Richardson signing off.
And I'm Dr. Rhonda Lawson. Have a wonderful evening and a blessed week.
See you next Tuesday.
Thank you for tuning in, and join us next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern for another edition of Black Authors Matter TV.